is not. I don't know if you can still hear me. I think I had some.
Yes, you're still audible.
Okay. Yeah. So it is also very important to note that the manager is not a label, is not a sponsor, is not the promoter, but they can be that. So the misconception now comes in when there's an expectation that artists sometimes don't know what they're looking for, whether they're looking for a manager, a sponsor, or a promoter, or a label. And that a manager can be for the artist, but the artist can still be under a label that the manager is not part of, but he manages the artist or the creative on behalf of the artist. And the other part is to assume that a manager is an errand man or errand woman for the artist. There's always like who employs the other. We have to look at management as, for those that follow football, maybe this is could I hope it works to explain this. Cristiano Ronaldo's brand is CR7. Now, in that, we hear that Ronaldo um, has signed a deal to stay at the club he's at. No one will mention anything except Ronaldo. So all of us, in some view, to a lot of extent, that we think in the conversations, in the growth and ambitions of the club, I mean the art, I mean the creative who is the footballer, we always assume that he's the one who sits in these meetings and draw the brand map and the DNA and all these things, manage it and whatnot, because he's the face of the brand. So all of us will say, no, Ronaldo is very smart. Ronaldo did that, you know. But the nitty gritties is that Ronaldo himself, he works at CR7. Now he has a manager who also works at CR7. Now Ronaldo's role at CR7 is to be the face of CR7. While George Mendes, his job is to be the manager of the brand CR7. If I go to another conversation, Burner Boy and his mom works at Burner Boy. Now I can't remember Burner Boy's name, but the name, the government name for Burner Boy works at Burner Boy. So the guy we see doing Burner Boy songs is the guy whose role is to be on stage, create, and be the face of that brand, and that's his role. While the role of the manager is now to make sure that that brand is consistent, is sustainable, is having longevity, is able to move from where it was yesterday to where it should be tomorrow, is to navigate the risk, is to calculate the risk, is to see the possibilities, is to understand that these are the threats to the brand, these are the opportunities to the brand. So I could go on and explain that, and I hope I've tried in probably the short split. I've tried to explain what probably could be and what a manager is and what probably should not. I don't know if I could stop there.
Yes, you can. You answered that very potently. I'm sure if people are paying attention, which I'm sure they are, then they will ask the follow-up questions themselves. I'm trying really, really hard to stick to my schedule so that we answer as many questions as we can. But you really have tackled a lot of key areas, and I really appreciate you for that. My next question for you would be, how does an artist get management? From the outside looking in, it feels like there isn't a formula that is followed. There are times when we look at an artist and we say, this person has so much talent. Why is it that they're not being managed by anybody? Why is nobody picking them up? And then the other times that we see someone that actually deserves management being managed. So what really happens? Does an artist need to go out there looking for management, or do the managers go out and scout artists and say that's a person that's worth taking care of?
Okay, it's very also important to understand that the way we view. So you have to forgive me. I would have to respond in an ideal world and then respond in Malawian context, and I'll keep doing that because I know a lot of us we have information about, like I said, management labels and distribution deals and all these, But the only challenge, and I wish you could, that's why I think it's very important to have these conversations because maybe they'll put a context to what it actually means for whatever information we have. It's like, before I go to that conversation, for us to understand the context is for those that have bought cars and they know, or maybe even not just bought cars, but they understand how people are buying cars online. If someone in Malawi tells you, Gudi, they are buying a new car on B Forward or any other online website, ideally that car is a second-hand car, but we call it a brand new car. And we have all accepted that it's actually a new car, which has over 60,000 kilometers, and we call it as a new car. Anzathu akamamva zimene zozo amabalalika kuti muthandazo chani when you say that you bought a new car which has 60,000 kilometers or 30,000. And it's because their context of what it means to buy a new car is a bit different from what it is to us in terms of what is a new car. So South Africans can go in a shop and buy a proper 0 kilometer car, and it's actually a new car. To us, that is like a luxury that we can't like explain because it's only like for like top level, people who have money and all these things. But we're still existing and enjoying our level, which is buying a car that is new to us. So I wish a lot of us could also get to a place where they understand the creative space, the creative industry that we have built, where we are, where we're existing, is in the context of where we are as us. We are not late, we are not fast, we are not delayed. We are where we're supposed to be, and we need to move as such. So when people mention stuff like there are some artists that deserve to there are some other artists that deserve to be managed, or that has a good management but they don't deserve it. It's us not understanding that this industry, if it's a business, it doesn't have to have emotions that are guiding us to a business conversation. No one is going to grant you the grace to be a business person. You got to own it, you got to fight for it, and understand that no one owes you anything. And in an event where you don't get it or you get it, it's not by the fact that there's lack. There's a lot of deliberate intentionalities that have to happen and that has to be built in, which is either as an artist, you have to, and people always say, no, creatives need, they need artists, they need managers and all these things. And I keep saying no. And I think I've had conversations with certain people that are also in this on this meeting. I keep saying this. Before you say that creatives need managers, they need knowledge. So they understand what is needed and expected of them and the people that they would like to work with. Because when we get to the context of who finds who, you would understand that the knowledge has not been fully articulated because it's not about who finds who. It's about being in an ecosystem that enables you to understand that this is what you're supposed to be at. For instance, if I want to be a footballer, I need to at least know one football pitch, one football ground at least, or I should at least be close to one football player, or a former player, or a referee. Something that enables you to be in a space you have to be getting close to. If I want to be a DJ, I can't be a DJ yet. I don't even know one DJ in my life. I have to know at least maybe one venue that, allows DJs to come. Like, there has to be something that pushes you close to what you want to be. And that's why when we see Beyonce, there's like a early when she was 5 years, there's a video of her singing somewhere, you know. A lot of us, that the reason why we're not where we're supposed to be is because we thought it's fate. It's like by luck we're gonna get somewhere, somehow someone will notice that. I personally don't believe in that. I think if it's a business, you gotta start it from a business onset. If you wanna be selling water, you gotta go and find where the tap is. Who sells majumbo amadzi? How do you go and like that's why we have like for me is it's not about who finds who. It's about who wants it more. Who is doing the right things to get close to their dream and to make sure that that is what they want. So if you're a manager and you're looking for artists, you're not gonna find them in like you being home. You gotta be in spaces where there are new artists, and all these other spaces that will allow you to get to see talent that's there. I remember in 2005, we were looking for dancers for one of the clients we had. I think 2014, 25, 15. So what we would do is we would go to by then there was teen time at Chess, and we'd go there on a Sunday. There were these youngsters who go there and dance. They were not even drinking. They just go there with their buddies. I'm a vina. Like when the DJ is playing, they'll just do like a dance bar or whatever. And that's how we got some fine dancers from here. There's a guy called Mike. There's a guy, Tamaka, the floor steppers. These guys were like the floor steppers. And there were like more other people. And we got them from there. So my point is, it's not who finds who. It's about who wants it more. It's the guy who understands that I need to be where I need to be because my dream is moving in this direction. And a lot of us, we think that someone owes us to be managed. Someone owes us to manage. It's not. It's not even about just a talent. It's the guy who wants it more. And if we understand what it means to want it more, is understanding that this is a business. A business needs two things: the capital, which is talent, and the finances. If you can be the guy with the finances, at least be the guy who can push the direction to find those finances. So a lot of us, I wish would understand that it's literally not just it's not about emotions. If you really want to do it on a business side, like it's not on my big ups, umata and everything. You really have to be, they say your network is your net worth. Like, and that it doesn't mean that you have to meet the highest level of the networks in Malawi, but you have to try, like you can be an aspiring artist and you don't even know people like join art. You don't have to be friends with them. You at least you have to know someone in me and push yourself. Or like it's not automatic that it will happen, but your zeal, it will show that you want it more. So I think I don't know if I've clarified that, but I wish people would understand that there are no emotions in this. It's not fate that will move you to be the greatest. It's not. It's proper planning, understanding that I need to push myself to where I need to go. And it starts with you knowing your role as I am the art or I'm the manager. I need to do this. And this is me who is supposed to do it.
Wow, awesome. There's a comment in the section saying that is the bitter truth, and I could not agree more. I love that you started touching on my next question, which is, the role of an artist. You've already kind of hinted on that. You've mentioned things like them knowing where to be, them knowing the people in their field, and just really honing in on the business aspect of being an artist. Now, when it comes to artist and manager relationship, it's kind of symbiotic, right? The manager has the role and the artist has the role. We've already touched on the role of the manager, but I really want us to dig into what the role of an artist is. Like, how should they carry themselves? What should they expect? How should they behave? things like that. And I also want to kind of bring light to that question, because there are times where I've had people say things like, oh, that artist is really talented, but they're unmanageable. So what does it mean to be an artist that is manageable? What is your role as an artist in an artist manager relationship?
Okay, so it's always unfair that sometimes I hear certain comments, and again, whatever I'm sharing, I can only share from our context. So it doesn't in any way mean that ifeyo nderi kuziwa chimedu kugamba. We can only share from what we know. But one of the things that I always find very interesting is um when someone comes out and say that artist is a talented guy but is unmanageable. For me, it's so unfair because I'll give you a context of what it means. Michael Usi, for over 20 years, he's been the guy who we all knew as Manganya. We never knew this guy has a full life, like that he's married, he has kids, and he's like a proper respected gentleman, apart from him being Manganya. That when he got as a vice president to the position of the vice president, a lot of us who have never taken him serious, to the level that he got to a place where he tried to be a serious guy, and he got to a place where he said, you know what, these guys will never take me serious. You know what? Let me just be that unserious guy. When he got when he got into power, first thing he was doing, he was going in hospitals, in public offices, and he was going there as a proper leader. And he would go there and make it a point that I need you to be at work by 7:30. You are not doing this right. You are da 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 da. Da. But no one took him serious up until he started dancing in markets and places. Now people started paying attention. So where am I going with that statement? It's a conversation about where we are as an industry. We think artists are, or we think we can build brands that are far away from who we are. So people think, ah, for you to be a good artist, you have to be a good person. No, the personalities that you think are as good as you think they are only allowing you to see the side they want you to see. And that means someone is doing their job so good that they're only focusing for you to see what you need to see. Jay-Z and Beyonce and all those guys, we always think, no, Beyonce looks cute and everything. Like you think she doesn't drink, she doesn't do crazy stuff, whatever it is, because she has decided with her team to be in a space where we we only see what they want us to see. So they said, okay, B, I think right now we need to talk about us, you and me, as a now a management team. They're like, we need you guys to sell an album which is talking about you cheating in this marriage. And then all of us, yeah, Jay cheated as we're listening to the music, like the whole album. People were streaming for Jay. Like we were like, yeah, we don't even know at what level of intimacy are these two at the time that we're thinking that Banjaro City win. We as managers, we need to understand we have personalities. Artists have personalities. We don't have to like their personalities. Neither do we have to be in a space where we think the talent that's there will be affected by their character. A lot of us that are in working spaces can testify that if we, as and who, the people that we work in these companies, if there were no policies at work that we need to show up at 7:30, we leave at 5. If you don't do those things, you'll be called for disciplinary. There are things that even if you are the craziest of all the people, but you behave at work. The same way that we need to understand that it is the same conversation that goes to creatives. So there's nothing like, no, that artist is not manageable. No, we didn't set the back, like this, the best of that management aspect has not been built. That you now start thinking the problem is the artist instead of the problem is the base you are putting the artist on. Because a lot of us who have degrees, we have masters, we are doctors and professors, but our personalities are ungovernable. But we operate in a governed institution. So we behave accordingly. If the world didn't have the Bible, a lot of us would have been killing ourselves. That's why when we were kids, we were indoctrinated about Christianity, Islam, or something that you believe in, because it governs you a moral compass. That process of having a moral compass guiding you allows you to understand and behave in a you existing in a, it's like I don't know how many people are employed on this chart, but imagine if you who is employed amakubasa ndrama, like your salary amakubasa kuti okay, your salary is 20,000. Osadulapo nsonko, osadulapo nothing, you are getting your proper gross pay. Would you ndazukuza kuti okay, mutenge ndramayo, mutengepo 10,000 mukalipire kumazimu, mutengepo 5,000 mukalipire ku pension, mulipire 2,000? How many of us would actually do that? But what happens is we now expect the artists to get chekecha 1 million from Gosoma. Ndikupezeka kuti achitenga cheke chicha. Ndikumati koma samamanga nyumba ifanyani, samalipira mazimu ifanyani. Taiwala kuti ife we are lucky because we are in a institution that has already built a system that allowed us to look like we are organized. So if we understand management from that context, where it's like, oh, okay, if we didn't set the base right, we could lose everyone. Again, these individuals that we think they are manageable, and this is me as a manager, and I hope this is also for like artist managers that would like to be. You don't have to be in a space where you think every creative that you're going to work with has to be manageable. You have to understand that you are a manager of an entity. Entity who have things. God amubwera mojedwa. You have to set the how do you make sure that God asabezeka kubwera mojedwa. Kodi akabwera mojedwa zothandiza chani. Komanso iweyo ngati manager, what is your example that you're setting to make sure that the policies you have established can be respected and orderly followed? So for me, it's not about the discipline is a personal choice. Some decide, and some brands literally only exist when there's chaos. And I've seen those, and and it works for them. But for me, it is unfair to think that all the artists, all the creatives have to have this nice behavior. We have this thing of we have to be humble. Yeah, da, 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 da. Yes, but what if the person is not really humble? If you build that brand far away from that reality, it is very easy for it to be disproved. So for me, is understand this. I'm not trying to even tell artists to be like, no, you can be whatever you can be. Nope, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, you as a manager, your role is to understand that the talent probably you're gonna work with will probably not be a human being that you wish they were. So remember, the same way that if it were you being in that position, you're still a human being. So understand, you have to ask yourself, Kanye West has existed for years. Do you think he's that crazy? Or they are so consistent with their brand that in their industry, the showbiz industry is actually a show business, that it operates and it works. Because again, if Kanye is gonna come on a podium today and start ranting all those things, and then he goes back to his house. He stays in Beverly Hills. No one meets him. Ku Beverly Hills kumakhala madolo kaoka. So how right now Justin Bieber, he's posting and he's been doing crazy stuff. No one meets him. So the reason why we think that we need to judge our artists from their character is because we we meet them. So we want them. It's like we we almost thinking that they are friends, yet we're forgetting these are creatives. Allow them to be creatives. Allow them to be the celebrities that they are, and that allowing is coming from a manager who has now, or just not just a manager, but a management team that we think know what they are doing. So, in a nutshell, what we are saying is it is good to have an artist who understands and they are disciplined. That's very nice. But also, talent is not equal to discipline. The most talented people that I know are the most rebellious ones. But if they are existing in an ecosystem that enables them to understand their role and respect the other people's roles, that is what you need. Even the reason why we say, okay, no, mashoa tamamba mojeda, it's not because people come late. It's because the one who is producing the show has made them people understand that it's okay for you to come late because I wait for you. So it's not like we have to understand that before we go and probably position our citations on other platforms, we need to understand where that association is supposed to be placed. Because the moment we misplace our precedent or our premise, it is the reason why we don't find the solution for it. So we have to understand that talent hiyo tiisiye bayoka is a discipline ndizina zotero kumeneko ndenchito ya manager. And whatever institute that that's it's the same thing that when you leave college or when you start working umakhala kuti wewe unazolera zina zake zosakhala bwino, you know. But it is now the pamalo pene ulipo pamene amakudziwitsa kuti oh leni, I mean, for people that probably have been married or just being in a relationship, they would understand the fact that when you before you get married, umapanga zina zake, then you get married, then umakazandika kuti akasanga ama 7 kuliko simaphika ndendikapanda kudya ndikasayipeza mawa kuti azukaso mmene amandiyang'anirawo amakhanga tandiuza kuti kangati izizi mukapitiriza kupanga mugona panja, you know. And what we are saying is humans are still humans, artists are still humans, and they have very unruly behaviors, and we're not saying we're enabling it. But if you decide to be a manager, don't think that the artist has to be a good person, because you're not there to like it will you can only influence them to a certain extent where they will see what they're supposed to be. A lot of us tikamba ntchito timaphunzira discipline. The reason why even school is so important for a creative is the fact that there's something in school which is very important, which is one. And most importantly, a lot of people, and I always tell people that I don't think school ndio kuti artist ujaphunzire mpaka nakapeze ntchito njanjani. Ayi. Koma there's one thing that school teaches anyone is the ability to start something and finish. Creatives that have not gone to school, they have never learned that trade of starting something and finish. Ku school kumaphunzitsa kuti assignment akakupasana muyesese kuti kamafika deadline kaya muilemba deadline lomwelo siku lomwelo koma mupereke, akamati 5 koloko mupereke. Creatives chimene chocho ndechimabwera ndi munthu amene akudziwa kuti tikayamba chinthu timalize. That is where I think we have to understand kuti okay, mwinatu you can have it, we can have it, an artist who is the most talented koma akangopanga chiganizo chopoira alibe umutsutsa. And artists, fun enough, a lot of them, they surround themselves with enablers. So if you have not set the base right as a manager, kuti I mean, nkhani ya ntchito ndi ya ntchito, nkhani izizi zikuthandiza mwakuti, I think timvesesana what it means than kumapanga blame anthu aja kuti yayi that one is unmanageable, that one is that, for me is unfair to call anyone unmanageable. I keep saying this. It is if it's coming from even artists, I wish we would understand it differently. Like I said, if you are given iweyo ndalama olo kunchito kwanu kulibeko malamulo olo kubambo anu ni mayana nakauti sama kukuuzani kuti 5 koloko mukhale mutafika pano ambiri ife bwezi silili oti kumacheza nafe chonchi iyayi olive ni chinzake bwezi chikumativuta kupanga handle. But we have been privileged to be in spaces that were governed, like the panali order that enabled us to be better people.
Whew, there's someone in the comment section asking for your Airtel money, and that's how you know you're spitting fire. Like, thank you so much for that response. Now, to everybody else that's here, that's joined us today, thank you again. Just as a reminder, we will be taking questions in the next 3 minutes. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can type them out in the comment section, or if you prefer to speak directly to Prince, then you can hold on to that question, and when the time comes, we will pass the mic on to you and give you the chance to speak. But if you want to speak to him directly, please remember to be respectful and to just be professional. Don't, like he said this before, you need to treat people like the professionals that they are. They are not your friends. So yes, he's in our presence today, blessing us with all this knowledge that he has, but remember to keep it respectful. So this will be my last question, since we have 12 minutes. Time has flown. So Prince, some artists go on to have successful careers without artist management, and there are some other artists whose careers are successful with management. And then there are other artists who, with or without management, the career trajectories look more or less the same. So, in your experience, how crucial do you think artist management is to an artist's success?
Okay, so again, whenever I'm having this conversation about artist management and just artists in general or the creative sector, I wish all of us to also see Bongani in the context of any other industry. The same question I'd ask is: imagine if like Maloya, for instance, there was no like an industry, because the reason why we have we're not going to build anything that's new. There are things that have already been built. There are things that are existing, and they have made people to be who they are. We are here now, but we should not ignore that there are already things that were set and they have made sense. It's only for us to get it and use them in a way that it makes sense for us. So for me, like, to even answer and say, what is like, some artists are successful without management and all these things. True, but what level is that success measured on? Again, there are some artists that have also failed even before, I mean, even with management. My role is my sincere response to that is: there's not going to be an industry if you're not doing industry activities. I will never be in a space where to say you need a manager, you need a manager. I don't. I just say you need to start acting like you're in an industry that you want to see and be in. So if I am a footballer and I want to be one of the greatest, I have to do what the greatest do. The greatest, they train vigorously. They make sure they sign up to clubs that at least they can be seen. They try and shoot videos of what they are doing. They work with people that are in that industry. So it's not about you just being the greatest by playing it. It's actually you being the greatest in your greatest ways of doing your great things. And that is not just you saying, no, I'm talented. No one owes you attention. Like, it's not. Hens is one of the least famous Nigerian artists, but she has 2 Grammys. I don't know what that means to you, but I'm trying to say, if you want to be the greatest, you got to do what the greats do. Tyler has one big song. She's touring and headlining all these big shows out there. I'm trying to say what's more important is management, but I'm trying to say if you want to be the greatest, you got to do what the greatest in your industry do. You bought a truck. You want to join the truck and logistics business in Malawi, and you're operating it on the level of a Zingwangwa guy, but you want to act like you are part of the Russia group. You gotta operate like the Russians. So if you have a truck, one truck, just know you can't operate like Russia, because Russia has 1,000 of those. So you gotta do what Russia does, or maybe he goes and gets a loan or whatever. Like, for me is, I'll never be at a space where I'll tell people that, okay, management is so important and everything. No, I'll just tell you that if you want to be in an industry, and you want to be recognized as someone who is actually an industry player, and you want to see what actually an industry is, you got to do what the industry expects you to do. The same reason why I always tell artists, like, listen, stop thinking about international. Not the fact that you don't have the talent, but for us to start thinking international is us doing what international guys do, which is one, you can't even have a collaboration with an international artist without meeting their label. First of all. Secondly, you can't do that collaboration without actually convincing them on numbers. Thirdly, our budget for a music video is probably 1 million, 2 million. Our friends, and I'm talking about in Kwash, our friends are budgeting for a music video, $1 million. Do we really want to embarrass ourselves in that space? Not really. Are we in a such space? Aye, we are in a place we're supposed to be. We are learning. Our friends went into this knowledge phase long time ago. It's okay for us to be in that space. And as we're learning, we're going to stumble. We're going to learn these things and understand how best we can do them in our context. Do we mean that other international guys are better than us? Not really. We probably on talent the same, but they are on a different level. And we should be able to understand. But they are on a different level because they're doing what the industry expects them to do. So if the industry expects you to be with the management, do it. Casper is one of the artists that is so good, but AKA used to give him a headache because AKA was under a label and management, and it was different. And even for him to have airplay on radio, and for me, I always say Malawi is gifted. An artist in Malawi can have a song today and send it to Join Art, and probably on Monday they'll play it. In South Africa, as just close as South Africa, you can't even send a song to a DJ that you're not affiliated with a label. Casper would do all the best songs and everything. And I remember Casper, for him to blow up, he had to use data file. I don't know if you remember data file for those. He had to do that because there was no way of him to release music if he's not under a label. What I'm saying is, as we're standing today, AKA is gone, but a lot of us will say, no, I think AKA was a better artist. Now Casper is pushing it and everything. Yes, but you can tell that there was a difference between him and AKA. So I'm not here like uh, I'm not here to say, okay, you need to be like, oh, you have to have a manager. I'm trying to say, if you want to be the greatest, they do ABCD. It's up to you to choose and do what the greatest do it, and that is your decision, and your benefits, and because it can work and it cannot work. But what I'm saying is, the greatest, they do it this way. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much for that. Now we have 5 minutes remaining. There's a question that was sent a while back in the comment section coming from Agrim Zembe, who's asking if you can brief on what a promoter's role is. And I guess that's coming in to kind of understand the difference of an artist manager and a promoter.
Okay, so promoters come in again. Promoters come in different folds. There are some that are just solely on like project based. For argument's sake, I've seen there was a guy. I don't know if you can remember. There was a guy called Ali Collection. I don't know if you guys know him. He he's like, he would get maybe 10 artists, do songs and then put them in a compilation, and they'd call it the Ali Collection. And it was just project based. A lot of promoters are project based. Like, okay, you want me to help you with, doing your launch, or you want me to help you with an album, or just to launch you, stuff like that. And promoters are more on the, they're not in longevity. Like they're not looking for long term projects, stuff like that. And a lot of them, they operate on like project basis, like where and it spans off even to events. A lot of promoters are like, okay, we want to bring Chris Chris Brown to Malawi, and then they'll work on that. They'll not say that I'll be bringing Chris Brown today. They're always like project based, and for artists, um, to just have promoters, it's doable, but again, it doesn't give you the chance to actually create probably a long term plan. And I think execution wise, Some promoters are also good. They're able to say, okay, fine, on this project, I'm going to get now a manager for you, so that now you are able to now cushion whatever time that you need to use for that moment. This is 3 to 7. I don't know if we are wrapping up at 7. I think I can do maybe 10 more minutes or so, and then we can wrap it up. If anything, I think that's if that's an issue.
Awesome. Yes, let's do that. Thank you so much for giving us an extra 10 minutes. There's a question, well, not a question, but a raised hand from Nzako. That's the username. So if your username is Nzako 03, please take the floor. And then after that, we're going to have the next question coming in from IS Junior Banda. And I think that will probably eat our 10 minutes up. If not, please try to keep your questions very, very brief so that we can have more as well. The floor is yours, Nzako.
Thank you very much. Earlier on, Prince, you mentioned on about 360 deals. Now, where they give you distribution, recording time, and management. I would just want you to tag on how can I ensure that with those services provided to me, I still get to own my masters and still have control of my music.
Okay, let me share from where we're standing. All the artists that we work with, even those that we have offered almost close to 360 deals, we don't own their masters because our industry doesn't have. You can't quantify the leverage. If I come to an artist today and I said, "Listen, we want you to do 3 albums for us," um, and when and we're quantifying this deal as 2 million, for argument's sake, it is the most unrealistic uh, conversation I would even try and to do it with an artist, because we don't have parameters that will allow us to set that. So for us, even if we're offering to like an artist, like I said, we have some that we have managed to give almost maybe 95% of a 360 deal, what is supposed to be. But in that regard, still in that regard, we don't own their masters because we know that we're not even serving the 360 the way that we're supposed to be serving. So the reality is, if they decide to work on their own, they can use and move whatever way that you can. I I advise people in Malawi where we are, no one should ever try to convince anyone that they can own their masters. You don't have the right parameter to state and say this is how much my masters are worth. There's none. We should not even try and have that conversation now. I don't think even our kids will be probably the ones. Probably they're other kids. Because again, if I ask you today, streaming for instance, how much are you going to say if I invest 5 million in a music video? Am I going to make that 5 million from the YouTube? Don't tell me about, because our friends, how they calculate to a deal is they'll know if your album hits platinum, this is how much we're making. If your album does this, this is how. If you do 5 albums for us, okay, let's assume we're giving you 10 million today, 10 million US dollars. So what's going to happen is we give you 10 million US dollars. You're going to do 5 shows. In that 5 shows, ukhala mwina 2 million. Then we'll do streaming. In the streaming, we'll get another 4 million. Then in your endorsements and everything, we'll get another 4 million. That's how our friends make that business deal. It's not just numbers just flying in. You understand? Like, so for us, how are you going to get to a place where you're saying, okay, even as an artist, I want to own my masters. So what I'll do is, there's nothing you're going to explain because a lot of it will just be on um, you explain it from what you're thinking, not what the reality is. I think I just seen someone who is writing about YouTube. People are making. I don't want to call it millions. Let's again. Let's assume they are making millions, but is it equivalent to how much they invest for them to actually call it what it should be? Because again, you can invest 10 million, right, in a production, and then collectively, at some point, they give you 1 million. Because there's a million to it, you would think that actually you've made a 9 million loss, but everyone else will call it a million that you've made from that project. So I don't want to dive into that because I think that's like a different conversation. Again, in an ideal world, artists right now, Diamond doesn't even need shows. His job, if you check now, I'm at Rusa Nyimbo every month because his deal with the distribution company that is on, he's fine. He doesn't even need anything. The another example is the way Cristiano Ronaldo was. He was playing at Juventus and getting less money from the salary he was getting from playing, but the money that he was making from Instagram. So for me is there are so many things that we probably would know, but they're not all of it that we need to execute now because of where we are. Again, sikutitajedwa tikupuzira anzathu sanaliso moments ngati awawa, the same way in Zambia, the same way in Zimbabwe, tosefe tikukhala ndi mavuto ofanana. Literally, if you go to Zambia, the biggest artist that we think, if timakonda no pa Zambia pompa apa anthu akupanga ndrama, anthu amene akupanga ndrama ndangati, because ukoko tumwadziwa maps yekha, the rest tikumangomva apo ndi apo. But if you go there, you realize that they're also going through the same thing that we're going through. What we need to do is to understand, oh, okay, what is it maps that is doing that is making to be standing out? Let's understand. That's what I mean when I say that if you want to be the greatest, you gotta start doing what the greats are doing. For you to understand in that industry, that's I think it's very important for us to recognize. We we are not an independent. We are in an ecosystem. We have to operate like that. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, sir. You've touched bases.
All right, man. But otherwise, our friends, masters are theirs. Like if you get a 10 million from a label, you'd have to buy back that masters. And it's not even good. Akumbera drama. It's because they're giving you 10 million US dollars. You gotta pay back in value. And your value is to create content that they can monetize, which in a system they already monetized. Ndeyo amakagura akubwereka 10 million. Akugula zinthu zija before you even produce it. Actually, it's a risk on them. So they will charge even ndekuti mwina normal value ya talent yako mwina ndi 6 million, 4 million imene akuika kumambayo ndi riski yokuti mwina sizizatheka. Nde ulipire riski kuti mwina iwewe upeze kuti you're just a one hit wonder. So those are like, ife tikamazimva mwina timaona ngati mwina it's just like they're just mentioning numbers, 1 million, 2 million. It's a proper calculated business conversation, and anthu also akhala pansi ndikuona kuti ife drama izabwerera apo, and that's how we are supposed to see it as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that response, Prince. IS, the floor is yours. And there's two other questions in the comment section. I think those are the last two that we'll be having for the evening. Junior, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Prince, thanks for the information. I think there is a lot to learn because the information that we gather on social media or by reading on the internet is different from how it is in Malawi. But let me just ask one question. According to the international market, the manager is supposed to get 10% from what the artist will make. In Malawi, how can we shape that number? How does it look?
Okay, so again, remember the issue about context, right? The 10% is on what context? Because the number is not definite. No one should ever tell you that this is what a manager is supposed to do because you don't know what they're doing. I told you about we were able to offer management deals, and some will just do distribution, and some will do management distribution, and some will do management distribution and recording. Would you think that though these instances would have the same number that the manager would get as a cut?
No, no.
Exactly. So the reason why I'm saying that is we have to understand where the context is. Again, some artists don't have managers; they have booking agents. A booking agent has a different view. But again, Kumalai, everything looks the same. You understand? It's like Colgate. Ali say toothpaste in the Colgate. Up until you dive in and understand, oh, where are we standing? You understand? So we have to get it from that point. Could Ena, they're just publishers. Ena, they're just promoters. Ena, so for me is depending on the deal that you are in, it will make sense based on the value that you're getting. Again, that's why I'm saying, Kuti, everything that we know is true to something up until you now get it and put it in a space where it's like, okay, this is what is supposed to happen. Oh, okay, I am only getting this, so it makes sense that you get this. Okay, the same reason why even brand ambassadorship in the country is people think it's just one book. Like everyone thinks you gotta look at this. If you see how we think ambassadorship works, you realize that we have a long way to understand what ambassadorship is actually. Because kwanza amapezeka sokuti artist wapangidwa ini munaonapo maartist aina Davido ajasankhidwa kuti ambassador kwina wake kukasainira kujavala suti.
No.
It's only here that you are signing an artist who has dreadlocks, who wears my slippers or kapena mavala ma vest pa stage. But every time that you want to engage with that artist, somehow he has to look your way. So you are changing him to look like you, but you wanted him because of how he looks. But somehow you don't like how he looks. You want him to look like you guys. That's why I'm saying the context is very important for us to understand. As a brand ambassador, sikuti wewe akunena kuti daily uzikamba za iwo aja iweyo ndi akufuna anthu amene uli nawo aja afuna agulitse zawozo pa iweyo ndesi kuti ufunika iweyo usinthe upezeke wakhala no show ya iwo aja. I don't know if I'm making sense. So everything that we are gathering as, oh, this is new knowledge. Okay, how do we do it? Okay, the same way that creatives think they understood. You as an artist, you gotta be very available on social media. You know, you gotta post, as much as you can and everything. Cool, that's true. Okay, guess what? It doesn't mean you have to post every time, everything. Because if you are a musician, when I come on your page and I'm a label or I'm whatever it is, I'm looking for artists. If I go on your page, the first thing I need to see is your music. That's the product. But how many creatives do you see that you go to their pages and the first thing you see, you go in their 10 top, like my recent posts, you realize from the 10, because they were told, which is true, you have to be available on social media. But they didn't understand the context of what it is to be available on social media. So now, today, they're a comedian, they'll post about it, they'll post about being funny. Tomorrow, they'll post about, they'll be football pundit, or whatever it is. The other day, they'll talk about politics. And then when you see on their platform, you don't even see what you're supposed to be looking at. But again, they're using information as an artist, you have to be available on social media and you have to be relevant. True. But where is the context? They are losing it to understand what they're supposed to be known for. So they're actually, if I give a good artist, you are debating about anything, but not their music. Because they have made you to believe iwo ndi chinthu chokuti lero muthu akambirana za kavalidwe kwawo, mawa muzakambirana za amuna awo, wiki inayo muzakambirana za makolo awo, the other day muzakambirana nawo zimene umphawi wawo, but you realize that for 2 months kupeza kuti simukambirana za music. Then you wonder why they have relevant numbers, but every time that their music, there's low because the product they're selling is not what they're selling. So in the context, I feel that's where the knowledge that a lot of us have, but wibangano contextualize and put it in a perspective that if I also and we are growing as an industry. So once we get to that level, we realize, oh, okay, I think this is where we are losing it. I think this is where we're missing it. But to be fair, the talent is so much, the knowledge is so much. What we need is sit down. Let's get to a place where all of us are saying, okay, information taiti nga magai. Tatenti one made nga igwisa nchiro, imene siti nga igwisa nchiro. Komas, tisamanene kuti iyai, anzathu akupanga chakuti, iyai asiyera amene ajawa. Nthawi ina, mwina, tizafika pa yowacha. Koma in the meantime, it's not being comfortable, but accepting kuti pamene ayo anzawo alipo, azienda. Ifeso tizienda. Tisathamange, tisamachedweso. Koma tiende papesi yokuti we are being guided by the fundamentals of any industry that we're supposed to be building. And that is coming from the fact that no one owes us anything because we are talented. If because our talent, it is the only thing that will justify our existence to number one. Talent ito anthu akupanga recognize. Kuma there has to be something that is different from you that separates you from the others. That has nothing to do with udolo wa iweyo. Has the manifestation iweyo chimene chimakupangisa kusiyana ndi anzakocho. And that is what is bigger than anything else. In South Africa, there are so many hip hop artists, but right now, if I ask you, you mention Nasty C. Why? It's not because he's the greatest rapper, but there's something that he does that is different from the rest of the hip hop artists. So if we go, once we understand that, that is the starting point of us in growing whatever we're supposed to go.
Well answered. Thank you.
Okay, so the time now is 13 minutes after the hour 7. Prince, thank you so much for overextending yourself. My question to you would be, there are 2 more questions in the comment section that I can put together. Do you want to take them, or would you rather say, well, hey guys, I've done my part. I was supposed to be here up until 7. Now tadutsa 7 ija. Apa pano mukulu anu kuja kokha ngati mukundijaira. What would you like to do?
No, it's fine. Again, I'll tell you honestly.
Mm.
These days, it's like some of us when we're starting artist management or events and everything, we never had people that it's like growing up without a big brother, and you wish, like when you have younger brothers, you wish that they would understand how significant you wish it was for you to have someone who's going to tell you that, listen, I'm not trying to say I'm right and whatever we did was right, but I'm trying to say this is what I found out. Whether you're going to use it or find it useful, or if it's going to ignite your brain to even do it better, that's even better, you know. So having these conversations, I used to complain a lot, and to my wife. Like my wife would get annoyed because every time I'd be like, industry to eat, and then she said, "Why don't you speak about it then? Why are you annoying me in this house by telling me all these problems, but you're not going to tell those guys this is what you think?" So ever since, I think there are people on this platform who know how I never used to speak about stuff. Like I would just do my way. I was just like, okay, I'm in my highway and I'm moving. So I don't mind being in a space where people really eagerly want us to share knowledge and understand and hear things, and hopefully with time we can create more of these, and we can have these conversations as we can. So don't worry about it. I think we can have a conversation. I think it's a good thing that you did it like Mazulo, which we can spare a few minutes, and then we can answer them.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to hold you to that word you just said, Kumavirogo, but not yet. So for the last 2 questions, I'm just going to put them together. We have one from Triz, and he's saying, how can an artist approach a manager or know who would be right to approach? In most cases, managers are the ones who have to see you first in our local context. Now, another one is from Madalitso Mtukula, and he's saying, how do you spot long-term sustainability in an artist rather than just short-term popularity? If you like, you can take both of them, or you can divide. Good, I'll take this one first, and then I'll rehash the other question later on. But the floor is yours, Prince.
Okay. I just want to go to the question so that I can. Which one is it? Is that citrus?
Yes, the Triz, and then there's Madalitso Mtukula.
So the first one is how can an artist approach a manager or know who would be the right to approach? Again, there's no formula who approaches who. It's not a game of who approaches who. The reason why sometimes we think it's like that, it's because we have a narrative that is wrong, which is pali bwana pakati pa artist ni manager. Pali bebu aliyesa kugwira ntchito. Aliyesa ndi role yake, you know? And the reason why even a company exists, and how finance amapanga zawo. Kuti yo mwalibelesa invoice tikulipireni. Aku procurement anena kuti tikupezeni ka vendor. Aku marketing ano rokheja mutigulitsa company. Osewa, they are operating in an ecosystem. you know. So the only way that they operate in that way and the bigger picture is met is because aliyesa ubanga mbali yake. I- muma factory muja wina yake pa bodo lako college ntchito yake ndiyongonesa kuti chitsekelo ichi chakwanapo sikuti akalwa mmene mujamu amayina kuti ofunikira na amene amathira mu fanta uja ayi aliyese atoka kuti mwina mabackground ndosiyana koma akamagwira ntchito ichi aliyese andiro yake. So it's for me, I want us to also look at it in that way kuti it's not always about who approaches who or who is the boss, who is not. It's about what is needed in that system for it to operate. Ngati pakufunika munthu wina akakhale artist wina akhale manager tatene tigwire ntchito choncho and aliyese adziwe role yake. It doesn't mean kuti chifukwa aliyese ndi role yake, it doesn't mean kuti sindingamacheze ngumakambirana za role anzake titumakambirana wakakaunsa mathomuza so ku marketing kuti magani ndimaganiza kuti billboard ija imuna kaipanga makumakumaku, you know, because it's an ecosystem. They can share notes, they can understand and grow and everything, but aliyese ali ndi chimene iye ali katswiri kwambiri, and that is where the sustainability comes in. I think someone spoke about longevity. Longevity can only be achieved if you have a system that allows it kuti samatope. Ine ngati artist ndisatope kumaganiza kuti kodi ineyo mawa nyimbo yanga ikalira patipo ineso ngati manager nisamadondolera kuti kodi ku studio kuja ndifunika ndikakhale konko kuti ine zionesa kuti awa ayimbadi nyimbo zichi. So that is ineyo ndikhala ndi nthawi ngati an artist kudziwa kuti I can only focus on music. Ndisapezeke kuti ndili pa stage paja nkumakumbukira kuti ku show kuno tupaja ndabwera ndi taxi ndizo zoti abweraso kwa taxi uja ndili pa stage, I'm about to do my last song and that's the biggest song, but I'm thinking now I'm finishing koma ndi kunyumba kuja no ndikafika bwanji fonde, you know. There's like there has to be that ecosystem that you have created, whether kaya ndi anthu awiri kaya anthu follow whatever it is, there has to be that, and that allows you to now have the longevity that probably iwe sumazindikiraso kuti it's where that is coming from, you know. The same way that people say kuti no anthu akakwatiwa amalandira ndalitso sikuti inde anthu opemphera afirime ndi ndalitso koma it's not really kuti ndi ndalitso. It's just that kuti kunyumba kucho kumakhala kuti kuli kaorganization kena kake wina wake amaona kuti makatani wanda akuda chifukwa iye ntchito yake amadziwa bwino zimene zonso amadziwa kuti kukichini kuja kunali mapoto ochepa pano pationjezere umapezeka muno vala zosita, you know. It's not kuti kaya kuli ndalitso ina koma umaoneka kuti khangati awo amavuto amene amakumana nawo mwina maganizo kuti akapita kunyumba mwina amadzera pabala kachi chifukwa sikuti amafuna kama mowawo koma amadziwa kuti akafika pa nyumba pachi azikankhala okhaokha nde mwina pano papeza chochita amapeza kuti akuoneka kuti vini kunyumba kuja amafika machangu nde kuntchitoso amafika machangu foti kunyumbako amafika nthawi yabwino akumapuma. So for me is there are things that we need to acknowledge and understand kuti they are so important and fundamental. Their existence sizimaoneka zinthu ziyazikuyenda bwino, zimaoneka zinthu ziyazikakha kuti zisokonekera mpamene anthu timazabwera kuzena kuti I think apapa pamasokonekera patipo apopo. So in terms of longevity, in terms of who approaches anyone, no, it's not. Yeah, artists can do it, managers can do it. Again, you ngati manage, you have to do what the greatest managers do, which is scouting. Ntchito yako ndi imeneyo. Iwenso ngati uli artist ufuna uzakhale artist wankulu, do what the greatest artists were doing. Kanye West anapanga nyani anakakamiza nkulu tamvera ni nyimbo zanga izizi anapeza njira yokuti mpaka na wina yake amvere nyimbo zakezo because tungakhale kunyumba nkumanena kuti iwe ndikatswiri anthu adzakupeza kunyumba kwakoko sizingatheki chimodzimodzi iwenso tungakhale kuti iwe the best manager koma iwe sukupanga zinthu zomwe best managers amadziwikira for. So when we understand that aliyese akamapanga njira yake you realize that even who approaches who doesn't matter. It's a mutual respect that is built. The difference in all that. The second question, I don't know, you remind me?
Yes, Madalit Somtukula is asking, how do you spot long-term sustainability in an artist rather than just short-term popularity?
You don't spot it. You develop it. One of the things that I always encourage people is from a manager point of view. I would like to work with someone. The first thing is I have to know them, and I'll give them months. Like everyone that we have worked with, we have been close for months. You know, we, for instance, we were friends with Joy for like I don't know how many years, like maybe 2, 3, and we'd only chat like friends, and on work we'll just speak and everything, up until the right time came where we said now we can start working, because we needed to understand where we are, and it's so important to understand where they're trying to go and where they're coming from, so that you can not just step in that story and become a distraction. I- the courtship in it too. So for you to have long term, you only have it when you have the time to understand what would be timapanga ndithu mmene machita kuntchito kuja kuti SWOT analysis. I don't know if people know SWOT analysis, but SWOT analysis is basically you check your strength, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats. Umaona kuti okay, iyi strength yake ndi weakness yake ndi opportunity yake ndi threat yake ndi ndiye kuti tisapezekeze kuti tapepera apapa within 3 months. I think weakness yake tione sese kuti isamaonekere ya. The other thing is people think that when you're working with creatives, you gotta work on their weaknesses. Mulibe nthawi. You don't have the time to work on the weaknesses. You just make sure you don't even put like premise. But don't go on the weaknesses. Make sure the weakness hina the same way on the weakness. As an artist, muma muziwira for kuimba. Ndi munthu uja mwamusankha kuti akhale brand ambassador. Ndimene mwayambira ati munthu uja kuti azipanga ma interviews. Mwayiwala kuti yayi munthu uja soyankhula ndoyimba. Nde mwina role yake as a brand ambassador azingopita pa stage ndukayimba ndikuchokapo. Then kuti mumuze yeye uja kuti ayambe kugulitsa company ija ma speech. I don't know if I'm making sense. That is the way that you can build longevity because anthu azingodziwa chimene ali chabwinocho. When you put them in a place where now people are judging him from, imagine we had a footballer that people were judging based on how he speaks English instead of how he plays football. We knew him for football, but we were judging him for how he speaks English. And that's the thing. We have artists in Malawi that we are judging based on how their marriage is being run. You understand? The best is maybe the marriage should not be anywhere in their music because, yeah, as humans, all of us, as we are judging that marriage, we are also having problems in our marriage, which is not even a new thing, but it's a new thing if as an artist. So for artists, alikale disadvantage because I'm a discredit. The reason why, even for me as a manager, is I need to make sure that every time I can be always speaking about if mambanga manager because sikulina understand kumara manager on fubi. You understand? Like they'll find a way to discredit that brand because it sounds good to find something that you can attack a brand that's moving properly. So maybe the best way is longevity. Mungu ni sauti ngati mmagulisa mango muzingopanga za mango musaronese kuti mango aja mmachapita kuti chifati kadziwa kuti mmachapita kuntsinje tiyamba kunena kuti tikudya mango sabwino. The same way Shoprite ukaona nyama ija akamaza yika pamene pachapa umayiona ngati aphalerotu koma ndithu itakuteka kuti anayipha ndithu dzulo ndipo olodzana zitakuteka koma anangonesesa kuti chimene simufunika musachionecho inuyo kuseri kuja inuyo musakaoneko. All I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying kuseri kukhale koyipa. Ko I'm trying to say, ngati kuseri sikogulitsira, tionetseni kogulitsako. Musaronese kukogulitsa ndiko omwe kummasungiraso. Mwina ife tungufunika tidziwe, chomwe mufuna ife tidziwecho, which is probably the music. I'm a filmmaker, let's know about that. I'm like, for me is, if you consistently allow people to know that that is the only product you are selling, anything else, sijago, people will understand. There are other creatives that we work with ife now zanambuye inuyo tikuziwa ndithu makondo khala pa social media koma please don't ma message aja ma WhatsApp kaya mukapanga posti sizoti muzijeza ndi anthu aja fana aja apanga like page anu aja sanzanu anzanu namene muli nawo pa WhatsApp amene muli namba yawo amaziwa kwanu mmatha kucheza nawo mmene musekera musadavale even malaya mmatha kumayimbirana ma video ko bwino koma awawa amene akunena lero ni mafanziwa mwina mukangwayikira chinthu chokuti mwayikiracho inu kazipirani musacheze nawo. That poyambirira zimazaoneka ngati kuti simungachiti. Eventually people understand kuti no, actually it's what you're supposed to be doing. It's the same way that people think they can. I always say this statement and people think they can destroy Tay Green's career by a tweet. Oh, please, John. That guy has been doing it for 20 years. Consistently, he's been giving you the same thing over and over again. And you have gotten to a place where you believe that the only king in the country is him. But you somehow think you can destroy it. Yet, so for me is when you do it consistently, the way that you want people to know you for, basi, if you get in a place with Tigrin, umaita kuzo kuti panopa kanga tabwera bwera nkulu ino akamene alusiyana ndi unaliyetse pa. Yet lero lumanimba naye Facebook umeona ngati ndi nzako. He's not your friend. So for me, let's get to a place where we understand with longevity, sustainability, long term imawera, because you have chosen things that you want people to know you for, and you're not allowing them to see the other side that they're not supposed to be seeing. We're not saying you should hide, but you're saying you're prioritizing. It's called prioritizing. Ine ndimagulitsa malaya as bambo. Ndipitirize ndizingogulitsa chonde. Chifukwa ndikambogulitsa malaya ndizapeza kuti mwina ndamba kupanga no run away from what probably I was supposed to be doing. Ndipeza kuti mwina malaya as bambo ndasiya kupanga prioritize. So we need to know you for who you are consistently and give it. Again, that is you doing what the greats do. MJ anadziwa kuti ineyo ndimafuna anthu azinditiona ngati ka mulungu. Ndanampatsa ma minutes ku Super Bowl. Anamuza kuti mbeyanga timakhala ndi 15 minutes. Ndipo musayerekeze zomataya nthawi kuti 15 minutes ja musanambe kuimba. Mkulu uja mutu mwake ndi management team yake anauzana iye aya nkulu iyenuyo anthu amakudziwa ngati ka mulungu. Anapita pa Super Bowl ndikutuluka ndikuima. Anaima mepo almost 1 minute. Anthu akungogwa ena kumakomoka ndizana amene amapanga direct show that day anali ndi niye direct line to his ear. Anambo mamuza chimene mukundijera nthawi ndikudulani yambani kuvina yambani kuimba. Nkulu janaima, you can go and check that, it's there on YouTube, you can watch it. He was there for longer than he's supposed to be, and even the producer of the show was mad, but the management and him knew ifeyo timapanga izizi anthu amakomoka komalo kandi show ya 15 minutes ife timakomola be anthu, because he has been doing it for over and over again. Akafika pamalo amafuna anthu adziwe kuti kamulungu kaja kafika. So for me, do it knowing kuti that's what stands for you. That is because chinthu chabwino ndi chabwino. Ukachipitiriza kuchipanga anthu amaona ngati si chabwinonso koma nchongo funika izichitika, and you make things look like they're easy, but they're not.
Phew, these are the types of conversations that can go on forever and ever and ever. In comment section, I think Prince has to come back sometime later. I remember, please. Now, this is something that we can talk about another time. But Prince, I'd really, really love to appreciate what you've done for us today. You have overextended yourself. You have given us a lot of knowledge. And I'm sure everybody that's been with us today has appreciated everything that you have shared. And I'm going to come to your inbox. I'll be in your ear. Ena mena nanene ena ke muja kodi muthobwera so kuti tizapitirize nkhanizi, because like you said earlier on, there's a lot that needs to be talked about. There are so many conversations that need to be had, and these are the platforms that those conversations can be had. And that's exactly why we even started doing the music business education series as Vwaza Multimedia, because we knew these are the types of conversations that our industry needs. So I'd really, really love to thank you for your time here today. And I hope that we can have more sessions like this with you in future. So thank you so much for your time. Before we leave, I'd like to highlight something else that we have going on as Vwaza Multimedia. My English is going because Kwambakuda. So I'd like to highlight something that we have that we have going on as Vwaza Multimedia. So we have what we're calling the Vwaza Showcase. So to kind of brief you on what that is, it's happening on the 23rd of August, Ulilongwe. It's a free event, right? And it's starting Masana, like at 12:30. It's going to be happening at Havila Park. So there's going to be a combination of media training to help people, especially artists, get comfortable with public speaking in interviews. We are going to be shooting content so that you have something to work with on your socials. And, if you have any releases that you have on our music app, which you should have, by the way, if you're an artist. We're going to be shooting content for that. And we also have a showcase session. So if you have some new music or anything that you like to share with the audience, then there will be space for that as well. And as always, it's also going to be a platform where you can network with fellow artists. There's going to be producers there. There's going to be other creatives. There's going to be people from media. And obviously, there's going to be the Vwaza team as well. If you'd like to have more information on what we do and how you can work with us. So it's a free event. If you check our socials, we're Vwaza Multimedia on everything, then you'll find all that information there. Prince, I'm going to leave the floor to you. Not leave, I'm going to give you some space in case you have any parting words. And then we are going to wrap the night up.
All right. No, thank you for having us. I think it's also we can also share. I think something that I think we spoke at some point. I think with one of your team members about also collaborating on something. We are running something under Kabula Diaries. It's called the Creative Convention. So it's almost similar to what we're trying to do. What we've done is we've developed like a 1 year course. So our idea is we enroll people for a year, 6 months, depending on the level that they are. We are hoping to do 3 to 6 months of theory, but then we attach them to someone who is actually in the industry. For instance, if you want to be a DJ and you take you through the course for the first maybe 3 months or 6 months, what we're doing now is we're attaching you to a DJ who is actually doing it right, real time, and we make sure that in that 6 months, if that DJ maybe is playing for maybe he's playing for 1 hour, he gives you 20 minutes. If let's say you're an artist manager, and that's something that we've been trying to do as well. We enable other people to also get to understand, because again, there's no school that gives you these things. And we're hoping that we can continue to create these spaces where we can help each other. Again, one of the things that we wish to continue to do is to train female managers as an entity. We have not been able to manage female artists the way that probably we would have. We wish just to develop more female artist managers, because we believe probably that's the best way that we can serve the industry. So yeah, it's even good to see even some of the people that are also here, and then just see how best they're still passionate about the industry, and see how much work they're actually doing out there, in just sharing knowledge and moving it. So yeah, for those that would like to just go through the Kabula Diaries, they'll see, and they'll get contact, and then see how best they can also, and obviously with Waza, maybe we can continue have a conversation separately to see how best we can also make maybe collaborations in this conversation that we're putting up about that convention. And lastly is just to say, from a manager point of view, one thing that you're going to forfeit, not just a manager, but even especially for a manager, but also a creative generally, is you're going to forfeit. If you decide to be a creative, if you decide to be a manager, you forfeit people knowing the side of your story. And that is so important for you to acknowledge, because not everything that will happen and things that people say or do, you have a chance to explain your part. And if you're going to swallow that pill, you leave knowing that you don't need to vomit it, because it's the reality that you're going to live and exist, and it's going to allow you to know, Goody, um, your side of the story is not important. Yeah, what's more important is your work moving the way that you have planned with your client, with everything that you want to grow, because you are not a human being anymore. The word creator comes from a word of, if you're creative, it's coming from a word of a creator. And the creator, as we know it, I might sound blasphemous, but that's coming from a God premise. God does not every day try to convince you how big he is. He just be big. Thank you.
Whew, thank you so much. So if you didn't get the details properly, visit Kabula Diaries on Facebook and you can get more information there. For us, it is Vwaza Multimedia. My name is Toko Kadewere. I have been your host today. Thank you so much for being with us, even longer than you had to be. I appreciate you for joining us in this conversation. That was the role of an artist manager. Keep up with us on our social media pages. We have more details like this, more sessions like this. We do them a couple of times a month. Make sure to not miss moments like this. From me, Thank you so much and have a good night. This conversation has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube this Friday. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.